Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Brittany. Today I wanted to do a quick story time. I was getting ready for work and I was thinking about all the adversities I have faced throughout my nursing career, and a lot of the videos I've created on the topic of nursing, I've really gotten a lot of positive feedback. So I wanted to create a video as a source of motivation for anyone that's beginning their nursing career, anyone that is in a job that is super challenging and is looking like you may or may not make it in this position. I want to tell you about my first nursing position that I got, actually ended up getting fired from, and how I kind of overcame that and eventually was able to get a position at one of the top hospitals in the country, actually. So to get straight into the story time, kind of going back to give you a little backstory, when I graduated from nursing school, it actually took me a really long time to land my first nursing job. So after graduating, I went back to my hometown, ended up actually having to take the NCLEX twice. So I took the NCLEX once immediately right after graduating from nursing school. Unfortunately, ended up failing. So I ended up having to turn down some positions that I initially had while in nursing school, moved back home and had to take the NCLEX again. So gave myself about 3 months, I believe, to really study and prepare for the NCLEX. Ended up passing it flying colors with only 75 questions. So it wasn't that I didn't know the material, I just wasn't a great test taker. And the next time I passed flying colors. So after getting my nursing license, it was time for me to apply for a job. For whatever reason, when I applied for positions in my hometown, I applied and applied every day and could never even get an interview. It was the weirdest thing that could happen. And I thought, you know, once I passed the NCLEX and had my license, that immediately I would be able to get a job, because that's what happened for a lot of my classmates when they had passed their NCLEX. But for me, that wasn't the case, unfortunately. So what I ended up doing was applying for jobs out of state, not out of state, out of the city that I was living in currently. So the city nearby my hometown, I applied for several positions at 2 of the major hospitals there. So ended up getting about 4 interviews and did great on all the interviews, got offers for all 4 positions. And I ended up picking the pediatric position because I wanted to be a pediatric nurse. That was always my goal and a dream of mine. So I ended up accepting the pediatric position. I started working at this hospital, and I kid you not, that first day, I was on the floor and I got my preceptor. I knew I had made a mistake. I don't know if it was my intuition, my nerves, or whatever. I do feel like I'm a very intuitive person, but I just did not click well with my preceptor. And from the first day, I just kind of felt like she was on my back. Now, I don't know if you guys have ever heard the term nurses eating their young. When I was coming through and I started my nursing career, that was a real thing. You really did have a lot of older nurses that would kind of make the younger nurses prove themselves, go through so much to really, I don't know, I guess earn their position and earn their place on the unit. But in my case, my first preceptor was actually very close to my age, but she was also the charge nurse, and she was also the go-to nurse that everybody kind of went to when it came to getting advice and just anything that went on the unit. And for whatever reason, we did not click. So from the beginning, it was a lot of anxiety. I didn't feel like it was a very nurturing, or maybe I shouldn't use the word encouraging. It wasn't an encouraging educational teaching environment. I always felt like I couldn't ask her any questions. I always felt like she was judging me. I always felt like she was kind of making it seem like I was stupid. And there was times when I would overhear her talking about me and things like that. So of course, I never felt comfortable going to her about any questions that I had about any of the patients. So therefore, my training kind of suffered because of that. So what ended up happening is I had a conversation with the educator, told her what was going on, and we decided that I would no longer be on this unit. I would try to work on a more general floor, and I would get a whole nother preceptor. Now, the problem with this is at this point, I've already had one preceptor. There's already been some gossip going on about me. The gossip now has gone to the new preceptor that I'm going to be with. So she already has a perception, or she already had made up her mind about what type of nurse I was and who I was as a person. So I was kind of doomed from the beginning. So anyhow, I changed floors, changed preceptors, and I started over. So started with this new preceptor who was a very seasoned nurse, way older than me, about 20 years older than me. And from the beginning, it was horrible. It was horrible. It was almost the same situation that I had previously, but now even worse, okay? And it kind of felt like same thing. I couldn't ask her any questions. Every question I asked was dumb. Just wasn't a very good learning environment, and I just built even more and more anxiety going to work. At this time, I was so worried because I had just got an apartment for the first time, like a big girl apartment in my name. I had just bought a car. This was my first time really being on my own outside of college. And I had all these bills, and I was really feeling like this job situation wasn't going to work out. But I tried to push through and push past all the fears and anxiety that I was having. And I just tried to do my best to learn as much as I could. For whatever reason, it still did not work out with this second preceptor. So I ended up going back to the educator and asking if I can get another preceptor that I actually had accidentally. The second preceptor that I had, she was out one day. I was able to actually be with a whole nother nurse. And in that day, I was able to learn so much because I was more relaxed. I felt like I had built more of a rapport with this other nurse. And I just felt like I could ask her more questions that I couldn't ask the other two preceptors that I had. So anyhow, long story short, I ended up changing for the third time to another preceptor. By this time, they were almost pretty much building a case against me. So the second preceptor I had, she pretty much during the time, instead of telling me the mistakes that I was making and having a discussion with me and coming to me and telling me what I need to work on, she was going back to the educator and telling her everything that I was doing wrong. So basically they had all these incidents against me. By the time I got to the third preceptor, it was already over. I was already on my way out, but didn't know I was about to be on my way out. So I think maybe like a month and a half into me being at this particular hospital, they brought me into the office with all the educators, some of the head charge nurses and things like that. And they basically sat me down and told me that it was not going to work out with this particular position. They were not necessarily firing me, but they were kind of letting me go to where if I wanted to try to find another position on my own, I could. The nurse educator, the residency program I was in, they were not going to help me find another placement, which, guys, is very, very odd. Most of the time when you go through a nursing residency program, if it doesn't work out for whatever reason with their unit or with your preceptor, usually you will work with your nurse educator to find placement on another unit. But in this situation, they kind of just let me know that I was going to be on my own. So I was basically forced to resign. And in that incident, I was basically trying to figure out what I was going to do. I had no savings. I had no backup plan, and I had to figure out quick how I was going to be able to turn the situation around and be able to take care of myself and not end up having to move back home. Long story short, thank God, I went back to one of the job offers that I had. Remember, I had 4 offers in the beginning. I went back to one of my job offers, told them that I was still interested in the position. I had a change in my personal life, and if the offer was still on the table. Luckily, I was able to get one of those positions. I ended up starting the nurse residency program with this particular hospital a little bit later. And meanwhile, I got a job as a home health nurse. Now, everything, I want to say this, everything works out in life the way that it's supposed to. When I was doing the home health position, I really found that I really did love PD. I did love pediatrics. That solidified that, one, I can be a pediatric nurse. I have it in me. I just needed a better learning environment. And two, it was something that I really wanted to pursue later on in my nursing career. However, the position that I was going to be taking that was in the hospital, it was with adults. I don't regret anything that I did in my nursing career, even with me going through the situation of being let go from my first job. It really did set me up to be successful in my nursing career. With me doing adults for that year, I was able to really build solid nursing skills. The unit I was on did have critically ill patients, so I learned so much in that time. I did have the opportunity to work with adults, and after that year, I realized I do not want to work with adults at all. So after that year of working in the hospital successfully, I had no issues. The preceptor that I got the second time around with the second position, she was awesome. It was a way better learning environment. And that's the thing that I want to tell you guys, like, don't let anybody make you feel like you are not capable. You went through nursing school and you passed those tests for a reason. You got your license, you passed for a reason. Like, you have done everything you need to do to prove and show that you are a qualified nurse. Now, sometimes when you start out here working, it's going to be a different story. And you're just going to have to push through that and show, not even show, you already know you are capable of being a great nurse, okay? So don't let anyone push you down. So with that being said, after I did my year, I went straight back to pediatrics, and since then I've been in PD. So I wanted to just share that story with you because I have other people that I know that went through the nursing program with me that it didn't work out their first job. A lot of nurses will not even admit that they were fired from their nurse position because it is ultimately embarrassing. Like, even when I was going through it, I didn't even want to share it with family that I had been fired from my job. I didn't want to share that I had failed the NCLEX the first time around. But this is something that is very common that happens to a lot of nurses. So if you guys have been through that situation, please comment below, like this video, and definitely subscribe to my channel. And I appreciate everybody for watching this video, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye.